The moment that I was done with the Freddie W channel was the moment that we had trailers for the actors on the set of VGHS. I walked into the trailers to go get the actors, and I looked around and I'm like, this isn't me anymore. This isn't what I'm aspiring to. This is not what I want to make. And it's not that I don't think that can be good. It's just a completely different avenue for that. That's like a fundamental fork in what we're trying to create. And that's like on a creative side. And then on the business side, that coincided with YouTube's switch over to per minute. Right, which you kind of touched on earlier. It's like per minute versus per view. If you're financially rewarding something per minute, it ultimately, we've seen, it took years to sort of manifest itself, but we've seen how that's like dictated the content on the platform of YouTube. Everything's trying to be longer. How can we serve up more ads? And ads comes up every 7 minutes. And so how do you user retention, et cetera? Whereas before it was just like, it doesn't matter what the length of it is. We're just trying to get them in there. And then for me, games is still not a per hour thing unless you go into the multiplayer, subscription model. But on the single player side, the narrative side, which is why Boneworks is still going to be a narrative game. It's you're ultimately paying some dollars and you get a game and you're going to play that game. And I hope everyone that plays it is like, that was worth the dollars. I'll do that again. Right.
So I guess just going to rewind a little because you mentioned, so seeing trailers on the set of VGHS was definitely seems like one of the defining moments of like when you were making that decision to part ways. But I was wondering, did you know, I guess, before then, pre-VGHS, like as you're working on the channel, what were you feeling that like you were ready to move on, or what was that like?
It's an interesting time to go back to, because it's definitely was like over a year-long decision, right? It's like this kind of like, things are changing on the platform. We started to get to the point where it's like, it's like, do I want to try to push this? Because a lot of YouTubers don't talk about it. It's like the YouTuber burnout is often, it's like the thing that fuels them is that rise, that riding the wave, the getting up on the surfboard, right? You're trying to make it grow, and inevitably at a certain point that sort of plateaus off, and it's like either we're going to keep pushing this to be number one on YouTube, from number 5 or whatever, or leverage it into something else, and keep going. But it's like, in a way, what keeps you pulling the all-nighters, what keeps you up and keeps you drive is that sort of momentum. And I think you see a lot of YouTubers turn that corner, and they attribute this to like broadly as burnout. But really it's once they aren't the hottest, newest thing anymore, it's like they kind of have to get into this like holding pattern where it's like, all right, now we just need to like maintain the audience. And it's like, obviously like Smosh did a very good job. I mean, it was a business that was sort of controlling all of that kind of kept them on a schedule, but as far as being like a perennial thing that just kept going, but accepting this role of like, just like kind of continuing to churn things out. And you have to ask yourself at that moment of turning, it's like, do I try to reinvent what this thing is and let it take that, let this ride keep going? Do I change what I'm doing and try to go after it again? Do I want in my life right now this transition of like, am I ready to kind of get to a more 9 to 5 and like get into that holding pattern and maybe, be more interested in having kids or, getting married, something like that. Like let that be my new project, because I think all of us share that, right? We have to have a project, or it's like you get this like this thing that drives you. And it's like, in my head, I'm like, I wasn't ready for that transition. And it's like, and Freddie's reaction to it was very much like he wanted to do VGHS and Netflix series and try to like go that way. Cause he was, remember back at USC, he was more, he was the film student that was the more traditional film student. I was partially in the film program, but then I also did sociology. I was kind of more of a wild card in that I never really liked Hollywood. I didn't like coming out to LA. I didn't really like what I saw, and I kind of liked the way we did it in Minnesota better. And so I always kind of had like I don't know, kind of wanted to throw the finger to the man a little bit more, like I don't want to join you. I don't want to like sort of put, reinvent what you're doing. It's like, I kind of want to like topple it a little bit, So I was spending that time kind of figuring out, like, it's like, obviously we went forward with VGHS and doing that. And that was, the first season of it was still very, there was some elements of both sides of it, and so there was some joy to be found in there and like working with some of the pyrotechnics and doing stuff like that. But then by the time that kind of wrapped up, it was like the full on switch was in, like, let's go to, let's incorporate, let's make this a thing, let's staff up, let's try to get away from the all-nighters and try to regulate the schedule a little bit more. And And so that kind of left me searching. So I was still doing some videos then. I was working with Kevin, who's still over here doing game development with us today, and we were doing like these higher end, like more visual effects heavy. I was getting more and more into the computer work side of things. Like I was finding myself enjoying the computer work more than the sort of on set work. And then so Freddie was always the one that would push me to more get something out the door. Like hey, we're shooting it today. Let's just go. That and I fell into the trap more where it's like. I'm like, oh, I'll take another week on this one, So I started like kind of going these ideas. So it's like and developing these videos, and then ultimately like after sort of like a year of that, I was like, it's probably time to split ways with this, and I kind of started looking into what's next, and I had a sort of probably a 6-month period there where I was coming to work around like 2 in the afternoon or something like that. Like I was kind of like yeah, it's like I was resting a little bit, and then it ended up being the trip up to the Valve that I mentioned earlier, where this goes into a box. We're gonna make VR content, and I started looking into game stuff, and it's like I'm enjoying the computer side of things more, and it suddenly got this new like creative charge to do that, and so sort of channeled that Wild West energy of like wanting to make something new into that side of things.